Good morning, everyone. Josh with Severe Weather, and happy Wednesday, the 17th to you. I'm a meteorologist in the Raleigh area. We're going to chat about this cold wave that's affecting a lot of the central and eastern United States. Another part of it coming here in a few days, as well as some winter weather to talk about and accumulating snow. So, we're going to talk about that as well as temperatures here. Another severe shot of cold. It's already gotten colder here across much of the eastern and southern United States with our coldest temperatures since about Christmas 2022, so over a year ago. We also have some winter weather coming in yet another couple of waves that's going to bring some significant amounts of accumulating snow to some portions of this area here as low pressure tracks across the region. Here's a look at our current hazards map. This shows where watches and warnings are. A lot of the country in blue, which is wind chill advisories for bitter cold, all the way down into Georgia and even central Florida. Hard freeze warnings here for the Gulf states through Texas into southern Georgia. Very cold air in place. Lake effect snow, winter storm watches and warnings here over portions of upstate New York and Michigan. And we do have a storm moving into the west that I'm going to talk about here as well, where we have ice storm warnings for northwest Oregon and adjoining parts of Washington, and winter storm warnings for the Cascades and the interior of the Northwest. So winter weather coming in here in full force here. You see on the infrared our next storm system over the Oregon, Idaho area. That is going to be tracking inland and crossing the country here in the next couple of days, exiting by Friday evening near Massachusetts and coastal New England. You can see on the map here, we do have some quieter weather over the southeast. No winter weather expected today as skies have cleared out. And it's so cold that where the fresh snowpack is here, these areas of blue over the Tennessee Valley, that's where surface temperatures are well below 0 Fahrenheit. We see that as well over parts of the interior Northeast and across the upper Midwest. This is not moving. This indicates very cold air in place, 20 degrees below 0 Celsius or even colder. And that is where our fresh snowpack is across the Tennessee Valley. So we just don't see this very often. So I wanted to point it out to you guys. It's just something very interesting to take a look at. You can see this is a look at our temperature pattern, and this cold is spreading eastward, and we've got another shot of it coming here. And then things warm up very quickly next week. Very mild air in place for this time of the year. This is the January thaw we've been talking about. That's going to be with us all of next week. However, it's not going to stick around too long. We've got another wave of cold getting ready to invade from eastern Canada. Another piece of the polar vortex, if you want to call it that, here by either the end of January or the beginning of February. With it being a couple weeks away, there's going to be some timing uncertainty, but it is certainly going to be coming and coming down here in full force. It looks like much of the eastern United States going to start February off very cold. The Europe, whoops, thought I had the European up. That's okay. The European's a little bit more delayed on that cold release, but it is coming here in February. Now, here's a look at our current temperatures across the United States, and some of the coldest air in the U.S. is actually in Tennessee, where that fresh snowpack is in place. We have some moderation coming here. Parts of the plains have warmed up quite a bit here into the teens and 20s. That's still cold, but considering how cold it was a couple days ago, it is not. But we see single digits all the way down into Mississippi, and I'm going to zoom in and show this to you. And this colder air now moving into central Florida. Here is a look at the Ohio Valley, and you can see this morning we're starting out at 10 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit in parts of West Tennessee as well as east of Nashville. Even the Nashville area itself is below zero. And, this is folks just aren't used to this kind of cold in this part of the country. So it's going to be taxing on the power bills and probably leading to more school delays and even cancellations here today. I did see a couple counties in Tennessee have basically just canceled school the rest of the week, as the infrastructure just can't keep up with this cold. So it's notable, and it's spreading east. Places like Raleigh and Charlotte are dipping down into the upper teens this morning. Very cold across Mississippi. And if you look farther south, we're finally seeing this cold across parts of Florida where it's been so warm. The freezing line down to Jacksonville, Florida, which had thunderstorms yesterday morning. Today, those temperatures are dropping down below freezing. Not participating in the cold yet in Miami. This front is going to get hung up. It is drifting south, but it's going to hit a certain point where it just can't get any farther south. And so we're going to see a gradient in temperatures in Florida from the teens in northwest Florida to near 70 degrees in Miami. So it's a big enough state to have those 50, 60 degree temperature gradients. And if you tack on the wind here, This is certainly shocking those of you here in Western Florida. Single-digit wind chills. The wind chill in Atlanta down to 0 degrees, and we do have wind chills in parts of Tennessee almost 30 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Brutal cold here, and you can see the temperatures have dropped like a rock in Georgia and Florida, 20 to 30 degrees temperature change from this time yesterday morning. You can also see here another extreme, and that's where temperatures are moderating very quickly. 30 degrees warmer in parts of Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, and the Western Plains here. You can see just complete shock here. We were in the 40s yesterday morning where our front was lined up in here. Now we're in the teens and low 20s. So a major drop in temperature. Tampa Bay seeing that temperature drop, but it is not making it all the way into South Florida. The Carolinas are also quite a bit colder. Yesterday morning here in Raleigh, we had fog and drizzle. It was in the upper 30s. This morning, we're in the upper teens. Skies have cleared out, and you can definitely feel the difference out there. Here's a look at our predicted highs today. It doesn't look too bad. It's still going to be pretty cold here in the Tennessee Valley. And tonight's still going to be pretty cold with sub-zero temperatures in places like Tennessee, 0 degrees in Tupelo and Huntsville, and sub-zero temperatures here across the upper Midwest. Florida going to be quite different from north to south here. Teens in the Northwest, 60s in the Southeast. And tomorrow, we're actually going to see some moderation across the South as temperatures warm up, and most of us will be above freezing except across parts of Kentucky and the boot heel of Missouri. In fact, Dallas back into the 50s after a brutal start to this week, 70 degrees in San Antonio. So the warm air is returning. However, there is a piece of the polar vortex that's going to drop down here behind our next storm, and that's going to send temperatures way downhill again here. The upper Midwest will start getting colder on Friday. While we'll be in the 50s in the Carolinas, that isn't going to last. Temperatures drop like a rock at night, and teens across much of the eastern seaboard, the I-95 corridor, Friday night, Saturday morning, 20 to 30 below zero across the upper Midwest, and some sub-zero temperatures across parts of the Northeast to start off our weekend. Here's a look at Saturday's temperatures, and we're going to be pretty darn cold here across the east. Tack on the wind, it'll feel worse. Quite cold across the upper Midwest. But this is just going to be confined to a couple of days as we head into the end of the weekend here by Sunday. Another cold night Saturday night, but Sunday, we're warming up significantly here into the 40s and 50s across the south and east. Dallas in the 30s, though, so it is heading downhill before we head back. And then as we head to early next week, we start to warm back up. So a couple of days of intense cold coming before temperatures start to moderate. And it looks like Monday of next week, a good chunk of the country is going to be at or above average here as we see more typical weather here for early winter. Here, I did show you the Mid-Atlantic already, so I'm going to move on past that and talk about our next storm. And you can see it's moving into the west this morning and tracking across the northern Rockies here this evening. Here's that wave of cold coming down here. This circular area here in the dashed blue line, that indicates our polar vortex. And that is on the move and will be moving into the Northeast here at the end of the week. We've got kind of a two-piece system that's going to track across the country. A light area of precipitation across Dixieland here for tomorrow evening, followed by a second piece that'll move through the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley tomorrow night into early Friday. And we will have low pressure near the coastline that is going to move out. But before it does so, it should produce some snowfall and what could be our biggest snow of the winter in New York City, only because we got gypped kind of out of the last storm. This one has a little bit better chance at producing some snow on the way out here Friday morning. But as always here, we've got temperatures at the coast that are going to be struggling to get down cold enough for it to be 100% snow. There could be a little bit of mixing somewhere in here. As we get to the weekend, here is the polar vortex. It does moderate some, so the cold is severe, but not as cold as it could be. And I'm fortunate to say that, to be honest with you guys here. And then after it leaves here, we very quickly moderate next week, and there will be rain in the forecast for a lot of the same areas that are dealing with snow now. There could be a brief period of wintry weather, frozen precipitation on the onset of this, but it looks like it's going to be primarily rain as we get into next week. So quite a shock coming here. Here's a look at the NAM model from Weather Bell. Big storm in the west here. We'll see snow moving into the plains and into the Great Lakes region. The first disturbance starts taking shape here around Chicagoland and Detroit. And the time frame on this is about 3 to 4 in the morning tomorrow. So as you're waking up tomorrow morning, most of you, we will start having some snow accumulating into some very cold air. We'll also see some frozen precipitation breaking out across parts of the Mississippi Valley heading into Tennessee. Later tomorrow morning, some light rain over the Gulf South as temperatures warm up. This is piece one. Here comes piece two behind it. And that one's going to bring a more substantial amount of snow to this area. There'll be lake effect. There'll be some lake enhancement. Some parts of northern Indiana are going to get hit pretty hard here later tomorrow night. And then just a solid area of light to moderate snow, which could overachieve. Honestly, we've seen overachieving snows like we did yesterday in parts of Maryland and west of Philadelphia. There is a chance this could do the same thing. As this moves through here late Thursday night, early Friday morning, we see snow rates picking up across the Northeast. And Friday, we are likely going to have some school closings or at least delays here due to the fact that we're going to have accumulating snow from the Chesapeake Bay region into southern New England. Boston being kind of the area that we have to watch for this to be a near miss or one that could bring us an overachieving amount of snow as well. Excuse me. Here's a look at the deep south. We've got this first piece of energy, pretty light, but enough to cause some challenges here with very cold air in place. The difference between this freezing rain event and the last one is that the air in place where this is falling into is already very cold. The last system brought the cold with it. This one has the cold in front of it. So I do expect to see more icing challenges out of this. It's not going to take much for these bridges, overpasses to become very hazardous for travel. So if you're in Arkansas tomorrow morning, you are going to see this freezing rain coming for a few hours, and surface temperatures are going to be so cold that it's not going to take much to stick to all the surfaces. It is going to lift north and east where we do see some moderating temperatures, but West Tennessee around 2 or 3 in the morning will get hit with this freezing rain, and then it spreads up to near the Kentucky border here later in the afternoon. And we will see freezing rain across the Smokies. We'll see it across parts of the Cumberland. And we are going to see it in northeast Georgia into the western Carolinas here. And I'll zoom back into that area to show you that in just a second. And a lot of this will be late tomorrow evening into the early mornings of, or into the early part of Friday morning here before this lifts away. And then we will see as this polar vortex drops down, it cools all layers of the atmosphere and could produce a light snowfall in this region here for Friday morning in middle Tennessee and central Kentucky, and then on eastward. Heavier snow across the Smoky Mountains and into parts of western North Carolina as well. But I think pretty much the Smokies see the best chance. Places like Murphy and Andrews may not see a whole lot. Same goes for Asheville and on south and east. Across the Gulf states, we are going to see some light to moderate rainfall, maybe a few thunderstorms breaking out across the Florida Panhandle, and maybe a little bit of lightning as well in South Georgia here late tomorrow night, early Friday morning. Let me shift this northward for you guys to see two pieces of energy moving through the Great Lakes region. The first one, a warm advection event, although not warm enough for this to be anything but snow, that breaks out here right around midnight or just after midnight across the Great Lakes, Chicagoland, northern Illinois, into lower Michigan, into southern lower Michigan and northern Indiana. And then piece number two drops down here. So you see piece number one, here comes piece number two. This is going to be a more significant, substantial snowfall. And interestingly, the NAM's got kind of a vortex here coming down Lake Michigan. That's going to enhance snowfall rates in far southwestern Michigan, far northwest Indiana, maybe just east of Valparaiso, maybe Michigan City, actually, if you can see the MGC right here. I know it's hard to see. If I blow this up, it's not going to look good, but I know it'll be easier to see. And then you see this snow all the way down across Indiana. So much of the Hoosier state here is going to have quite a bit of snow on the ground by Friday morning before it exits stage right here later in the morning on Friday. But this band continues off of Lake Michigan, which remains above freezing. The very cold air coming from the polar vortex will likely lead to near blizzard conditions here in parts of northern Indiana and maybe all the way down into parts of north central parts of Indiana, about an hour north of Indianapolis. So be preparing for that. A little bit farther north, we're going to see some bands of lake effect across upper Michigan, even to the south of Thunder Bay here over to Sault Ste. Marie in Ontario. And then as this area of light to moderate snow moves across here early in the morning tomorrow, it actually breaks the lake effect up a little bit. But then we see that returning here. You see it moving in from northeast to southwest, a very unusual direction to see lake effect, but nonetheless, it takes it over the warmer lakes. And as this polar vortex drops down, we see significant rates of snow in places like Battle Axe, Michigan, for example, Cadillac as well. And then, it's possible that the Gary, Indiana area and Hammond area get hit pretty hard here very early in the morning Friday before this band shifts eastward a little bit. So the Keweenaw is going to get hit pretty hard. Marquette's going to get more significant snow. And just some very cold air coming here for Friday night behind the snow. I bet you the models that I showed you, the forecasts I showed you, end up not being cold enough. That is something that we typically see here this time of the year, where the cold is captured, but not quite as well as it could be. All right, looking east here, a little bit of light snow over northern PA and northern Ohio during the day on Thursday, mainly mid-morning on. We'll see a little bit of snow as well across parts of West Virginia ahead of our next piece of energy. But late Thursday night, Friday morning, it does advance past the mountains here, and we do see some accumulating snow in places like Charlottesville, Stanton, Lexington, over to Fluvanna and Orange County here, and then maybe even Richmond gets a little bit of snow here early in the day on Friday. So this could cause some schools to be delayed or even canceled completely, as we have a wintry mix around the Richmond area down to Farmville and Lynchburg, and a little bit of frozen precipitation in here as well. We may get an overachieving amount of snow here early in the day Friday around the DMV area, all the way up to near Baltimore and over to the Delmarva Peninsula and South Jersey. This could be your biggest snow so far this winter and in a couple of winters, and it doesn't look like a lot, but compared to what we had the other day, there is a potential for this to end up on the boom side rather than the bust side, depending on how this plays out. So the NAM model says this could be pretty interesting for Delaware and South Jersey and the Philly area early in the day on Friday, around 7, 8, 9 in the morning over here. And we're going to see some significant snow as well across the mountains, but that shouldn't be a shock to anybody. We just had 15 inches in Beech Mountain, so this probably isn't going to be even quite as intense as that. Let me pan this a little bit more to the east to show you guys here. Lake effect band here coming through the Buffalo area tomorrow morning. Light snow breaks out here, spreads across southern New England. Probably not a huge deal at this point. And then more substantial snow moving into the region here Friday morning. And the big question mark right now is, does it get north of Interstate 90? Does it even get into Boston? And right now, the NAM model says it's going to be very close here. Definitely southern Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Long Island are going to get significant snow. And for some of you around the New York City, New Jersey, Long Island area, this probably is going to be your biggest snow in a couple of winters, albeit there's a chance for a lot of things going on here to change that forecast. I see that there's a possibility for this to produce quite a bit like the Canadian showed yesterday morning, maybe 8, 9 inches. On the flip side of things, there's the potential that this low pressure system kind of skips off the coast and we see things shutting off pretty quickly, limiting our snow totals. So the blend of models here shows, generally speaking, we're looking at 1 to 3 inches of snow, but that's the blend of the models. We saw the blend get killed with the last storm, so it could get killed here again where it just ends up being too low. So right now, 1 to 3 likely, but possibly 3 to 6, and high end could be 6 to 10 in some of this area. So that's something that I'm going to be monitoring for you guys here. Here's a look at the Canadian model, showing the cold air coming across the lakes first and foremost, then our warm advection snow moving across the Midwest here later tonight. Even parts of Iowa and southern Minnesota could see 3 or 4 inches. Southern Wisconsin could see 2 to 3. And notice how the Chicagoland area, it's already got over 4 inches falling, and the lakeshore of Indiana, possibly about a foot falling here. And then we see the heaviest snow shifting to the mountains of West Virginia and Western PA on Friday, but also Cleveland, because this flows out of the northeast. Some of you that kind of been missing the heavy snow, you may see in Cleveland more than 6 inches of snow out of this. Toledo may see more than 4 inches. And a lot of that is going to be enhancement from Lake Erie, the wind flow actually coming out of the northeast, enhancing snow rates from this system. So definitely the potential for this to come in higher than what the models are showing. And then as we move through Pennsylvania and New Jersey, we generally see 2 to 4 inches, but some areas that have the possibility of seeing more. Taking a look here at the Mid-Atlantic here, you're going to see here most of our snow across the mountains, but even central PA could see 3, 4, 5 inches. Philadelphia and Wilmington, Reading, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the Canadian says the potential to see about 5 inches of this. And by the time we total it up on the ground, it could be just a bit less, maybe closer to 3 or 4. But hey, I mean, it's something to get excited about if you like snow. Farther south into Virginia, Richmond, kind of right on the line here, north of Richmond, up to the Potomac, potentially an inch or so of snow. And in the mountains, we will see some substantial amounts as well. Looking at New England here, obviously we've got our bands of lake effect coming in off of both lakes. Looking at the Boston area, the Canadian has kind of backed things off a little bit and suppressed it farther south, trending more in line with some of the other models, but it still has a pretty good amount of snow coming, 1 to 3 inches for Long Island, New York City, and 3 to 6 across central and South Jersey. So, there's still a chance here that these models end up a little bit underdone. I'm not saying that's 100% the chance, but I'm saying that's a possibility. And that's something that we'll have to be watching here as we get closer to this event. All right, looking at the freezing rain threat, this is a real threat as well. Here are the amounts, generally speaking, between 5/100ths and about 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain, starting near the Oklahoma-Arkansas border, maybe clipping far northern Louisiana, but generally speaking, the southern and eastern portions of Arkansas, including the Little Rock area, northern Mississippi, Memphis could have significant ice here, with the time frame for that starting here around lunchtime tomorrow, continuing into the afternoon hours just north and west of Nashville, but keep an eye on this. It could still shift. And we do see maybe around Clarksville the potential for there to be over 1/10 of an inch of new freezing rain. We also see the threat for freezing rain shifting into the mountains here, where amounts will generally be on the light side, but enough to cause problems. And looking farther east of that, we do see potential for this to be a mini ice storm over western North Carolina, including the Murphy and Andrews area, Franklin, all the way over to Cullowhee, down to Brevard, and into the upstate areas of South Carolina, including Pickens, Oconee County, and maybe northern Spartanburg County as well. Northeast Georgia, mainly Lake Lanier on northward here Thursday night. And then there is a possibility for a little bit of light snow sneaking onto the foothills here east of Boone and Jefferson, south and west, south of Whitfield, all the way down to places close to Martinsville here, and eastward all the way over to places like Farmville, and maybe even just to the south of Richmond, including Petersburg and the southwest side of the Richmond metro area. And the time frame for that is going to be late in the night Thursday night and very early in the day on Friday. So this area, I do expect we'll see at least winter weather advisories. We may see school closings on Friday due to the cold that's coming, and travel is going to be very tricky across this area. Didn't want to leave you guys out in Kentucky. You are going to see some freezing rain out of this as well. Generally speaking, less than 1/10 of an inch, but there's a possibility on the higher peaks that we see slightly higher amounts than that. Finally, the Northwest, I don't want to leave you guys out. We see snow changing over to freezing rain near and to the north of Seattle. Significant ice over the Portland area and Salem as well. Snow across the interior, very heavy snow across the Cascades. But as this warm air arrives, we are going to see a change over to primarily rain along the I-5 corridor here this afternoon. Now, east of the Cascades, right along the Columbia River Gorge and east, this could be a major freezing rain and sleet event. Lots of ice potential here. This is the orange coloring, indicating that this is sleet today, basically from the Dalles on eastward, but a change over to freezing rain is expected this evening near to the north of Pendleton, and then we'll see this wave move out. The good news is that the next system coming in tomorrow primarily looks like a rain event, and we see snow across areas in the Cascades on eastward across the gorge. But today it looks really nasty here this morning across the Pacific Northwest. And I don't know why I showed you guys that twice, but anyway, we're going to wrap things up here very quickly, but I really appreciate y'all's time today. I hope everybody stays warm. The cold is really the big story here. It is brutal out there for some of us, but obviously we've got the potential for a lot of closings and schools to be delayed and closed as well. If you are a first-time visitor, if you've come back here again and you have not subscribed, I would love it if you could. That would really help me out. It helps my reach out. It's not going to make or break me, but it is something that will help me towards my goals in growing this reach and in doing what the Lord has called me to do. As a Christian man, I give all the glory to God. He's the reason I'm here every day. Every day is a blessing. I appreciate it. I don't take it for granted, and I don't waste a single day on what God has given me. And I really pray that you don't either. He has called us to do so much here. He has called me here as a meteorologist to get on YouTube and share with you guys, and it brings joy to me, only though because I rejoice in the Lord. Paul tells the church of Philippi, Philippians 4:4-7, to rejoice in the Lord always. And again, I say rejoice. Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. I was not a Christian until I was about 30. I did not have joy in the Lord. I had days where I was happy, times I had joy, but I didn't understand joy until I became a Christian, until I found the Lord, even though he was there with me the entire time. He doesn't he doesn't say we're not going to suffer. We need to have moderation. We need to understand that we're going to go through difficult times. And I respect you for whatever you personally believe. I don't throw the book at people. That's just not how I do things. I don't throw the Bible at them. But for those of us that are believers, I think it's very easy to suffer through these trials and to lose our joy. And I want to just encourage you and let you know that I am praying for everybody here that tunes in, whether or not you're a believer, whether or not you've chosen to follow Jesus. But do know that I'm thankful every day. The Lord brings me joy every day. And that's something that I just don't feel I can just harbor to myself. I need to share it with you all. So, whatever you're going through, I'm happy to pray for you. I really hope you all stay warm and have a blessed Wednesday. And I expect to be back on here tomorrow morning with more updates on this storm. Please have a wonderful day. Please don't forget about the joy that's given to you. And I really am excited for the future of this channel. And I'm excited for you all as well because you mean the world to me. See you guys tomorrow morning. Take care.